for those of you who haven't done this in a tutorial with knives before, knifing 101. And I don't mean knifing your boyfriend or your husband, just palette knifing. So you take the palette, I usually put like my index finger on the top, and you're going to put the palette in the paint with the bottom part of the palette or the bottom part of the knife hitting the paint so that you get paint on the underside, not on the top. It doesn't matter if you get paint on the top, but that's not what you're going for. You're going for getting paint on the bottom. Now, because we're doing something a little more that wants to be a little more subtle, I'm just going to tap on my palette just to take a little bit more paint off. I don't want too extreme. Okay, so once you get that black on the underside, you're just going to have a good time. And you're just going to pull some black. Isn't that gorgeous? And it just kind of happens uniquely. It's going to mix with, it's going to turn gray in some spots where it hits with the white, and that's good. That's what we want. One of the reasons I wanted a good application of the white. Isn't that magical? It's like so easy. You're just like pulling down. Now you don't push real hard on the knife. It's kind of a knack that you get used to. If you push harder, more of the paint goes onto your painting, but sometimes pushing harder gives you too much paint. So I'd rather reload the bottom of the knife often, tap on the bottom so it's not too heavily loaded with paint, and then just using a really light touch, almost like you're setting it down so it makes contact, and then just pulling it across. And you're still doing that similar C shape, it's just that you're in a different orientation now, so it looks, yeah, it's a C shape rather than a smile shape. Yeah, that's correct. It's actually correct. But when it does that like random, it just makes it look so much like birch. And you can do some more extreme if you want to as well. There's nothing saying you can't have areas that are more black than other areas. Ta-da! Birch trees. Now, of course, you could take a brush and paint birch marks on the birch trees. Personally, I prefer how this looks. So for the grass and some of the shadows in the ground, because right now it looks like the trees are floating in space. That's normal. But I lied at the beginning and I didn't say you need a baby bear. But this is baby bear, so it's just the same as mama, but smaller. Smaller, round, normal little brush. I forgot that we needed this brush when I did the introduction to the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add about 3 or 4 baby bear fulls of water into my black pile of paint. So I can show you really nice and close that it just makes it a little more fluid. But it's not dripping. There's no drippage, but just makes it a little bit more flowy. So then before I paint the grass blades, I'm going to spin baby bear as I pull her out of the pile of paint. So that maintains a nice point on the brush. Then you're just going to go to the base of the tree and do a few little flicks upward. Now you won't need to do these on the trees that go off the bottom because theoretically you're standing right in front of those trees, so your camera didn't take the bottom of the tree. This is a little, it's not that there would be grass under the tree and nowhere else. So, I realize this is a little bit of a trick, but it helps ground the trees. And then after you get a few blades of grass, you're going to add even more water. So another like 4 or 5 baby bearfuls of water. So that again, it's not quite dripping, but it's getting closer. I know it's black, so it's hard for you to see. So it's like really watery. I'm even going to add a little bit more. So it's really watery black paint now, because I'm going to add some shadows in the ground. And I want the black to be pretty watery. Now, I know you already thinned the paint, but now I want you to wipe most of it off, baby. So there really isn't much paint on there. Maybe just a little bit more on the tip. Just a bit. Because it's easier to put more black paint on later, but black is a very aggressive color. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some horizontal lines and kind of, see, I need enough water so that it still flows, because I don't want a dry brush. I want water. And I'm just going to do a bit of a shadow moving downwards. And I'm going to actually take my finger before it dries and kind of make it a little more subtle. Because I don't really want lines. But yeah, it just gives a little bit of the idea of shadows under the tree. And this will, even though, you'd think with all this water it wouldn't dry fast, but it actually does. So you got to rub it pretty quick if you want it to. There we go. This one should go all the way to the bottom. So I'm constantly putting more water. So the trick is the water. The other thing is kind of like to make it dark kind of all the way to the side a little bit as well. So I'm kind of like, it's like decorating the ground a little bit with shadows. In general, the more shadows you put in the background or in the thing, the less the base of the trees look like they're standing in midair. Just needs to ground the painting a little bit. You need to make sure the black is almost 100% dry before we're just going to do more of this stippling, but on top of just parts of, a little more subtly on top of some of the trunks. Because honestly, if these leaves were hanging from these trees, they wouldn't just be behind the branches, they would be in front of them as well. Time for another sip. Having fun yet? This was a little more complex than some of the tutorials I've done. So thanks for hanging with me. You're my rock stars. I love saying that. It's just fun. My beer's not as cold as it should be anymore. I've been focusing too much on my painting. Not enough on the drinking. I'm teasing. I actually don't drink that much. So first I'm going to put a tiniest bit of brown. I'm not going to put a lot of brown. And it's not mixed, it's just pure brown. So I'm using the same sponge as before. So in the background, you kind of see where the leaves are. So you kind of put some leaves. At first you're going to go, this looks weird. So I'm just... There we go. So this is just going to be for the darker spots. I didn't put a lot of brown on, just a little bit to give it some oomph. So now the pain in the butt part, washing the sponge out. It's kind of like playing with those squishy tension balls that you squish in your hands when you're tense. Kind of like that's what that feels like. So yeah, it's kind of a good feeling. All right, relatively clean and not drippy. So the next darkest color for me is that dark rust. It's more of a dark rusty orangey red. Oh, it's a nice color. And it covers nice too. Like you need the dark colors, or like, not that you want, like you do want the branches to peek through. So you're not covering all of them, of course, because they're beautiful. You wouldn't want to. But you have to cover some or it would look unusual. There. I haven't gotten any in the middle yet. There we go. Nice. Now, I didn't do brown because I have lots of brown already, but if you wanted to do a few just little areas in the bottom, just be careful you don't put them on top of the trees at the bottom here. You don't want any stippling, any little leaves falling. They wouldn't stick to the trunks. So yeah, be careful of that. But otherwise, wherever you put your, just to carry the colors on a bit, and to say, oh, there's some leaves on the ground. You can see them. And do some red, the red first. So I just want some splashes of kind of a nice bright red. Yeah, and again, I don't want too much of the bright redness. Just a little bit. I think that's all I'm going to do. And again, you can put a little red, although it looks a lot like the rust, so you might not need a lot in the bottom of red in the bottom. There. There, I like the orange. I'm going to go really light on that off-white sort of grayish tan color that I have. I'm going to make myself not overdo it. So I didn't put as much paint on, and so I just might use like the edges and just brightens them a little bit in spots where they've gotten a little dark. Can brighten them up a little bit. We got shadows, so we have to have light on the ground somewhere as well. Like we always do at the very end of our tutorials, I'm going to sign my initials. I think I'm going to put them in this corner actually because it's a little less busy than the other corner. L, G. Now, of course, you're not going to write my initials on your painting. You're going to write your own. So I just wanted to say thanks again for being rock stars and hanging out with me here at in my rock studio for Tutorial Tuesday yet again. And I hope you join me next week. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing. I always decide these things at the last minute. So, but I do hope you will join me. And I hope some magic happened for you today and that you were able to just let go, relax into the painting, and enjoy the process, because that's what it's all about. It's not about the product. It's always about the process. Great to see you. Hope to see you next week. Bye. Thanks so much for hanging out with me in my studio. Feel free to connect with me in the comments or check out my social media sites below. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, show those like and subscribe buttons some love. See you next Tuesday.